is Eric from ET Figure Unboxing, and in this video, we're going to take a look at a super action statue, Shu Tsukiyama from Tokyo Ghoul. So I have been waiting for this guy for a very long time. Like since half a year ago when they announced it, I pre-ordered it instantly. I would buy this shit out of every single character. I hope they release the whole cast, and I hope this line do well like JoJo Bizarre, so they can like just eventually release all the characters. But off the bat, I think he looks a little bit bigger than I expected, but you know, that's all fine. They're in a separate line, and I can get over it. And here is the right of the box, and here is the left of the box, and here is the back of the box. If you don't know anything about Tokyo Ghouls, you should really check it out. But yeah, he looks really good. We already know exactly what to expect from the box. But yeah, let's jump straight into the figure and bust this thing open. Alright, so here we have the figure itself, still in the packaging. And he came with a fair amount of stuff, but I feel like they could have included a little bit more. He has like 4 pairs of hands and everything, but I really want another head sculpt. Or maybe his napkin. I don't know. Like he's always sniffing it, so it's pretty good to have it. And they do have a lot of empty spaces, and especially they do have this back piece, and it does have the stand and everything. They could have put a lot more stuff in here, and they just probably decided not to. But yeah, it looks really good. We're gonna cut them some slack. This is the first figure, and let's not waste any more time and jump straight into the figure. All right, so here we have the figure itself, and I have to say he looks really good. Let's just take a closer look because I don't think he stands too well, and this is the close-up look of the figure. The detail on it is really nice, and the color is really nice, and the paint is really clean. I can't find any QC issues. Maybe just a little bit of paint splash like over here on the sleeves, but that's about it. But he is a huge fella. Like this is probably one of the biggest figure I have ever owned. Yeah, that's quite surprising. But yeah, let's jump straight into the articulation and see what we got. Alright, so for the articulation, these are standard super action statues. If you're not familiar with super action statue, here it is. You can look up and down, no problem. He can turn 360, no problem. I'm never a fan of the hinge because that thing looks really ugly, but they have been doing that for years, so we just have to get used to it. And for the shoulder and arms, it's all connected through a ball joint. And now I understand why Bandai has like a moving piece over here. Even though it looks kind of awkward, but it allows a little bit more articulation, like Lupin the Third over here. This thing just allows a little bit more articulation. And not this one. And I'm sorry to say this, but this guy is really blocky. Like the articulation doesn't feel as good. You have a swivel over here. You have swivel kind of on the bicep as well, and like those double joint. So that's very good. But still, the overall feel of the figure just feels really solid, and it's kind of like the articulation is not that good. So that's why they're called super action statues. The ab crunch is pretty bad. Like there's non-existent over here on the hip. And this thing, it's moving piece, but it's still pretty tough. You're rubbing the plastic and the paint all the time, so I don't really like that. And this double joint over here, and he has a toe joint as well. And this whole thing is connected through like a ball over here, and it's not that good. And this thing swivels. I'm not sure if I mentioned that already. And he can kick around that high, so he doesn't really kick. Like he can't really pull off like a good kick. And he's really tall, so that's like pretty sad. But yeah, that's it for the articulation, and let's check out the accessories. He came with. So for the accessories, he came with one pointing finger, and that looks pretty cool. They only include this for the right hand, and it's really well detailed and everything. Yeah, that's cool. Alright, so next up we have a pair of display open hands, and these are pretty cool. It's really nice detail and everything. I really don't know what pose to do with these, so you know, he probably will do something like this. He's like, oh, it's me, Shu. Alright, so that's pretty cool. Next up we have another pair of display open hands, but these are pretty cool. Like his fingers are kind of stretching out like that. It looks like he's telling people stuff. And the other one is just, I don't know, I really don't know how to explain this, but it's exactly what he looks like. He looks like he's just telling people something. He's like, oh, you should totally come to my place and have dinner sometimes. Or something like that, I don't know. It's pretty cool. Alright, so next up we have a pair of karate chopping hands, or kind of like a ladies and a gentleman pose hand. You know, it's pretty cool because in the show he actually owns a private club and he has to talk to the audience. And the audience are usually on their upper level, so that looks pretty cool. Alright, so lastly, this is probably my favorite pairs of hands. It's like kind of grippy and everything. They're ready to fight. They're flexing their hand, and that looks pretty cool. A little bit more pose. Yeah, that looks awesome. Alright, so here's the alternative headpiece he came with, and unfortunately we can't really remove the mask. It's not removable. The whole thing is just sculpted on there, but it's really nicely detailed, and you know, everything's fine. Yeah, if you look closely, he actually has the Ghoul's eyes in there. Like it's actually red and black. I'm not sure if you guys can see this too well, but it would have been nice if they can just include another head like this and without a mask and with the same expression. That would be so awesome. It would have been perfect. Alright, so lastly, he also came with his tail or his kagune, and this is really cool. He came with actually 3 pieces. Like, you have to actually assemble these. You can actually move it from here. Yeah, you can move him here, and you can move it from here. So that's like 3 pieces, over here and over here. And there is an alternative piece. You can like just take this off, and then you can put on the blade form, but the blade form doesn't really work too well, so I'm probably not gonna bother doing this. But let's see what he looks like on assemble. Oh, by the way, you assemble this by just plugging this thing in. This thing looks really ugly, but you know, it's connected to the stand and everything, so I can kind of understand. All right, so here we have Shu using the weapon, and it looks pretty good, but the articulation is really bad. I'm just gonna show you guys a little briefly. So he's supposed to be like a really agile fighter, but this doesn't really move all that well. This thing just kind of like moves like that, and this thing just goes like that, and yeah, that's it. So it's basically like a stationary piece. You can't really do much. I don't think you can even raise it. Yeah, there's no way for you to like raise his hand up or something. You're just gonna expect him to just like, you know, stand here and have that and just display it like that. And yeah, that there is an alternative piece, and wait, let me just swap it. So this is like the blade mold or something. This thing should be a lot bigger. This just doesn't look that good, and this thing actually makes this thing shorter. So yeah, I'm not sure. This is the first time they're doing figures like this, so I can kind of understand, but this is still pretty like dumb. Like, this is all he can do, and this part gets kind of awkward. You see that? Yeah, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about this figure, but yeah, let's jump straight into the size comparison then. Alright, so for the size comparison, let's start with some of the Figma figures. We have Gon, Ghost in the Shell Girl, Makoto, and Kirito, and you can see how tall he is. Like, Makoto is actually one of my tallest character, and he is taller than Makoto. So yeah, I'm not too sure, but it's still pretty cool. Alright, next up we have him compared to some of the Dragon Ball figures, and he still looks really tall. Alright, so next up we have some Naruto figures, and he is taller than Kakashi. Alright, so here is Shu next to some of my favorite comic writers, and that looks pretty good. And he's still really tall. And here's some Star Wars figure, and he's taller than Mace Windu and Kylo Ren. And here's some random figures like Revoltech Snake, Venom Snake, excuse me, and the Digimon Omegamon. Huh, at least Omegamon is still taller than him. Alright, so here I have Shu next to some of the Super Action Statues figure I have, and I really hope Jotaro were this big. And this is where I have a problem, like, he is just too big. They probably decided to make the whole line just a little bit bigger, but you know, I was expecting them to be the same as maybe Jotaro or something, but he is a little bit taller. But I guess making the figure bigger gives you a little bit more detail and, you know, whatever. But yeah, he is just a little too tall. Alright, so finally we have him next to some of the SH Figures Avengers line, and he is still really tall. I just can't get over his size, but yeah, let's check out some action poses, see what he can do. So next up, let's check out some of the poses he can do. He can do the welcoming poses, no problem, and that looks pretty good. And here is him charging some aura, and that looks pretty good. Alright, so here we have him showing off some weapon and charging some aura, and that looks pretty good. And maybe we can do something like this, where he looks kind of evil and shit. Yeah, and here we have exactly the same pose, but with a fire, and that looks really good. Alright, so finally I have him using the sharper end of the tail, and that looks pretty good, but then it doesn't move as well as I thought, and I feel like this whole thing should be a little bit longer. I really don't know how else they can make this better, but the articulation on this guy is horrible. I really don't want to lie, but I feel really bad. This is so annoying. Like, he fights really agile in the show, so I feel like, I don't know, this whole thing should have been softer, and they have to improve the articulation on the tails. But yeah, without saying anything more, let's jump straight into the final thoughts. Alright, so for the final thoughts, I'm not too sure if I can recommend this figure to everyone. And if you're a Tokyo Ghoul fan, by all means go for it. I will probably still support the shit out of the line. I will buy every single one of them just because I'm a really big Tokyo Ghoul fan. But I'm really disappointed in the height and the articulation. He is officially the tallest character I have in my collection, minus Hulk and Broly, of course. And I really don't like the articulation they have for the tail. And even the design of the tail is actually not too accurate. Do let me know in the comments if I'm wrong, but I believe this thing should look a lot more like a sword. Maybe they should include another piece where you can, like, you know, change it and it will be like really long, because I do remember it looks like a blade. Maybe it looks like this in the comic, I just don't remember. But yeah, that's the fundamental flaw of the figure. The tail is just not well made. But let's put it this way: if you're looking for something that looks really good and like a statues, you know, this is for you. But if you're looking to play with a figure, you're better off saving your money for another SH Figuarts or something. But I don't know. I was expecting something like Jotaro's height or something. They should have made Jotaro this tall. I don't know what they're doing. Like, Jotaro should be this tall, but instead it makes Shu this tall. Maybe they have like a change in a product manager or something that decided to like increase the size of all their figures. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I think that's it for me. You decide yourself if this is a good figure or not. I personally will still buy every single one of them, but I'm just kind of disappointed. But anyways, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And this is Eric. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.